Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time, we're tackling mindfulness.
Ooh, mindfulness.
But, well, there's kind of a twist.
Okay, I'm intrigued. A twist.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our listeners are probably already interested in the benefits of mindfulness, all of that.
Right.
But have you ever, wondered if the research really shows, all the different experiences people have? Is it really diverse enough?
That's a really good point. It's like, is this research actually representing everyone?
Yeah. And we actually have a bunch of research articles right here.
Okay, awesome.
And a whole stack of studies
Really?
that basically highlight this whole gap when it comes to mindfulness interventions.
That's fascinating.
So before we dive into all that,
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could just start with the basics. How would you explain mindfulness, for anyone who's never even heard of it?
Okay, so at its core, it's really about paying attention to right now, the present moment,
Okay.
but without judging it.
Oh, without judging it.
Yeah, just being aware of everything. Your thoughts, your feelings, what's going on in your body, even the world around you.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is mindfulness, it's a big word, right? It covers a lot of different practices.
Oh, I see.
And each one has its own little quirks, you know what I mean?
It's not just sitting there in silence, trying to empty your head.
No, not at all. I mean, that is one type of meditation for sure. It goes with what we call concentration training. But there's also ethics training and wisdom training, and they're both super important too.
Huh.
They're called the three trainings, and they all kind of work together.
Right.
Give you a much more holistic understanding of what mindfulness actually is.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's more about how we approach things rather than just the technique.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Now, you mentioned earlier about the research not being very diverse.
Yeah.
So what does that actually look like?
So there was this study back in 2018 by Waldron and some other researchers.
Okay.
They did this big systematic review of mindfulness-based stress reduction. It's called MBSR for short.
Okay, MBSR. Got it.
And also mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, so MBCT, all these trials in the US.
Okay.
And what they found was kind of shocking, honestly. 79% of all the people in these studies were white.
Wow, 79%.
Yeah, and that's way higher than, the average across the country.
Yeah, for sure.
And they also saw that way more people in the studies had college degrees.
Oh, wow.
And higher incomes than the general population.
Wow, 79% Caucasian. That's a big difference.
It is.
It really makes you wonder if everyone's actually benefiting from this.
Right, exactly.
These mindfulness interventions.
Yeah.
So why does it matter so much, this lack of diversity in the research?
It's a huge question. If mindfulness can help everyone feel better, shouldn't the research show that? The things we learn from studies that mainly look at one group might not work for others, right?
Right.
You got to think about cultural backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
people's economic situations, all their life experiences. They play a role in how people respond to this stuff.
It's not a one-size-fits-all.
Exactly.
Okay. So it's not just about being fair. It's about making sure that the interventions are actually working for everybody.
Yeah.
So what happens when you try to take what you learned from one group and apply it to another without thinking about those differences?
It can just not work, which is bad enough on its own.
Yeah.
But it could also be ethically problematic.
Ethically problematic?
If you're always leaving out certain types of people from research, it could make health disparities even worse.
Right.
And it might stop them from getting access to things that could actually help them,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like if you invented a new medicine and only tested it on men.
Exactly.
Would never know if it worked for women.
Exactly. You wouldn't know.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It shows how important it is to have research that's inclusive.
Absolutely.
But let's not just focus on the problems.
Right.
What are some of the cool things happening out there to make these mindfulness things more available to different people?
So there are some pretty amazing things going on. There's a 2024 study by Foley and colleagues.
Okay.
And they looked at how to adapt mindfulness interventions for people in lower socioeconomic settings.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. What did they find? What worked?
Well, they found that having shorter sessions, making the practice parts shorter, that made it way easier for people, especially if they have busy lives, and limited resources.
Right.
And they also found that using language and content that made sense for different cultures, that made a huge difference.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. If you're struggling to pay your bills, sitting down to meditate for an hour might not be so realistic.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And another really key thing they found was how important it was to get the community involved.
Okay.
So they trained people from the community to lead these things, be facilitators.
Yeah.
And that made people feel so much more comfortable.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It gives the community like a sense of ownership over their own well-being. It's powerful stuff.
Yeah, it really is.
Powerful stuff.
It really is. Yeah, it really shows you the power of like community-based approaches,
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of cool things happening,
Yeah.
have you heard much about using VR for mindfulness?
VR, like virtual reality.
Yeah, exactly.
For mindfulness. It sounds so futuristic.
It kind of is.
But how does it even work?
Okay, so picture this. You put on one of those VR headsets,
Okay.
and boom, you're suddenly in this peaceful forest.
Oh, wow.
You can hear birds chirping, the leaves rustling.
Mm-hmm.
You're literally surrounded by trees. It feels so real.
That sounds amazing. I can already feel myself relaxing.
I know, right? And that's the point.
Right.
VR can make these amazing, super immersive environments
Right.
that are just perfect for practicing mindfulness.
Okay.
You escape all the distractions of everyday life
Mm-hmm.
and just focus on this calm, peaceful setting wherever you are.
It's like having your own little meditation retreat, but at home.
Exactly.
Okay, but is there like any research on this? Does it actually work?
Totally. There was this study in 2023, a systematic review actually,
Okay.
by Mana and colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
and they looked at how VR mindfulness training affects mental health
Yeah.
in adults. And get this, they found it was even more effective than regular mindfulness practices.
Really? More effective.
Yeah. At improving overall mindfulness, like how mindful people felt.
Wow. Okay. What else did they find?
Well, they found that it really helped with anxiety and depression.
Oh, wow.
It even made people sleep better, and it helped them manage their emotions better, too.
That's incredible. So it seems like VR could be a way to get past those barriers that keep people from trying traditional mindfulness stuff.
Exactly. Like, think about it. Finding a good teacher.
Right.
Making time in your busy schedule.
Yeah.
Paying for those in-person sessions.
It can be expensive.
VR is a lot more affordable and way more convenient.
That makes sense.
And that means more people could actually try it out,
I'm starting to see how powerful this could be.
Right.
It's like a whole new world for mindfulness.
It is.
So what kinds of VR scenarios are they using for these interventions?
Well, there are tons. The Moss study mentions some peaceful ones, like forests and beaches.
Okay, classic.
But also, like, underwater scenes,
Oh.
even outer space.
Outer space.
To meditate.
Yeah. The main thing is to create an environment that makes you feel calm and connected.
I mean, escaping to outer space, even if it's virtual, that's got to help you focus on the present moment.
Right.
This has been so interesting. We've talked about what mindfulness is, the diversity problem in research.
And now this amazing VR thing,
Yeah.
it feels like we're just getting started. There's so much more to explore.
There is?
What do you think the future of mindfulness interventions looks like? Where we go from here?
That's the big question, right? I mean, we need way more research, for sure, especially when it comes to making these interventions work for everyone, no matter who they are.
Right, right.
We need to move past these, what they call weird samples.
Weird samples.
Yeah, it stands for Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic.
Oh.
Like, that's not everyone.
Definitely not.
We need to do better.
I agree completely. Everyone deserves a chance to benefit from mindfulness,
Absolutely.
So, besides diversifying the research, what else seems promising for the future?
Culturally adapted mindfulness interventions.
Okay.
Like, that's huge.
Yeah.
There's so much potential there to make these practices really relevant for different cultures and communities. We could really reduce health disparities and make sure everyone feels good,
Yeah. Yeah.
And we also need more research on the long-term effects of this VR thing.
Hey, does it actually stick?
Yeah. Can these virtual experiences actually change people's lives in the long run?
Interesting.
It's something we need to figure out.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about those 3 trainings we talked about earlier?
Oh, yeah.
Concentration, ethics, and wisdom.
Right.
How do those fit into the future of all this?
That's another exciting area. There was this study in 2016 by Van Gordon and colleagues. They said it's super important to include all 3 trainings.
Okay.
In any mindfulness intervention, whether it's traditional or tech-based.
Right.
It's about making it authentic and effective.
So it's like the foundation.
Yeah, exactly.
You need all the parts for it to be strong.
Exactly. And just like there are tons of different ways to build a house, there are tons of different approaches to mindfulness.
That's a good analogy.
Right. The key is finding what works for you and helps you feel good.
So it's not about finding like the one right way. It's more about exploring and seeing what fits.
Yeah. You might be drawn to practices from different traditions or even come up with your own thing.
Right.
That's the cool thing about mindfulness. It's adaptable and can help you grow as a person.
It sounds like the future of mindfulness is all about embracing diversity
Absolutely.
in the research and in how we practice it.
Exactly.
This has been such a fascinating conversation. We've covered so much.
Yeah, we have.
From the basics of mindfulness to this amazing VR stuff and the importance of being culturally sensitive.
It's been a journey.
It really has. What stands out to you as the most important thing we've learned from this deep dive?
I think for me, it's realizing that mindfulness isn't like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
It's more complicated than that.
Yeah.
It's got all these different layers, and you can adapt it,
Yeah.
to what people need, whether it's individuals or whole communities.
Mhm.
And as research goes on, I think we're going to learn even more about how it can help everyone feel better.
Totally agree. There's still so much out there to discover.
Right.
And to all our listeners out there, I really encourage you to, keep exploring this.
Yeah.
What kind of mindfulness practices really click with you?
Yeah, what works for you?
And what can we all do to push for research that's more inclusive, more relevant?
Those are the questions we got to ask ourselves, right?
Yeah.
What we talked about today is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a whole universe of mindfulness out there.
It really is. This deep dive has shed light on some pretty important things. The core ideas behind mindfulness, the need for more diversity in research,
Right.
the potential of new tech like VR.
It's been amazing.
It really has. It's been an incredible journey.
It has. And remember, the exploration doesn't stop here.
Yeah.
Keep learning, keep asking those tough questions, and keep diving deep into mindfulness.
Until next time, everyone, stay curious.